Welcome to today's jam session. My name is Josiah Shelley, where we're here trying to empower and help marketing leaders grow their team and their business. And so if you saw our last jam session, we talked about what is strategy. That's helping getting your team aligned on really what is the definition, what are we working towards. Now we're going to get a little bit more practical. So this is actually the digital strategy framework or a growth framework that Jan Kelly uses. We help to grow our clients' businesses through it. And I'm going to go through kind of each section, explain what it's about, how it works, how it applies to you. So let's get started. This is the digital strategy framework. On the left side, these are all the sort of annual or quarterly activities that we might do and that you might want to set up with your team. So you meet every quarter, you meet annually and talk about specific things. Strategy, quick wins, evaluating method and message, and I'll get into that. And then on the right hand side here, these are some of the ongoing things that you might be doing with your team already in your marketing strategy. Asset building, and audience nurturing. Underpinning this, we have put it on the right, in this case is marketing technology. Making all of these things better, making your team better, smarter, make faster decisions. So focusing on the left side first, we've got these three one-time, or as I said, periodic activities. So you might do these quarterly, depends on how you've structured your team or how often or how much resource you have. More often or not, this is something that's done annually. And so on the left we have strategic initiatives. These are things that really, why do we do any strategy work to start? We want to actually engage our heart and our mind. We want to take the time to sit down and think about our customers, think about our business. And I think it's important to note, before you get into all of this, you need to have a couple things straight. One, what are your business priorities? What are you actually trying to accomplish? Are you launching a new product? Or are you driving awareness for something? Or is it all about lead generation? Because those business priorities can feed your marketing objectives, and this is more of the actual tactical work that you might have your team work on. So in strategy, you'll see a bunch of different things here. This is the laundry list of all the things you could potentially do. In here, you also have the digital assessment, which is a popular one, so doing an audit, looking at yourself and competitors. And this is something where you can actually think about engaging your heart and mind, think about using data and creativity to understand your landscape and your competitors. And then looking at the second piece, which is quick wins. So we're going to create some high five moments for your team. I really believe that motivation is important. And so when we think about, okay guys, in the next 90 days, what are we going to do to actually show measurable results towards our business goals? What are we doing from a marketing perspective? Email marketing is great, right? It's an asset that you have. You could have hundreds, you could have thousands, you could have tens of thousands on your email list. How are we engaging them better? Because making marginal improvements is something that we can actually show the results from. I also have a few other examples, but that's kind of the second piece. We might think about those things quarterly or annually. And then on the right, we've got our method and we've got our message. And so these are the things like the marketing technology, like webinars, or maybe there's AI, machine learning, live chat, and all these cool mechanisms that are really shifting and changing. And nowadays, like when I think about the method, live chat is just such a popular one. We expect now, when we visit a website, live chat is the fastest way that we can get in touch with someone from that company. How is that impacting your business, and how are you actually leveraging that or not? Maybe it's not something that's relevant, but you need to be thinking about how these methods are changing. Webinars are super popular. You know, the webinar starts in 3 minutes. Why don't you join and digest that video content? So thinking about method and what is that core message that you're delivering, these are all the, I would say, quarterly or annual things that you need to think about that should anchor your digital strategy. And it's all about knowing why you're doing what you're doing. Exceeding customer expectations, creating high five moments, and really engaging your heart and mind. So that's the left side of the strategy. The right side of this strategy is all about the things you're going to be doing on an ongoing basis. So every, depending on how much you're doing, maybe weekly or monthly reporting, should report on your certain objectives within each of these categories. So asset building. you are building assets with your company. Your website, that could be creative assets, copy. Those are things that you can leverage if you actually shut off all your marketing spend that are working dollars like PPC, if you're running Google Ads or something like that. You shut all of that off. What are the things you have left? Because those are the assets that you can use to reach your audience. And so how are you thinking about and building those things over time? Because the worst thing that you could do is you spend a lot of money rebuilding your website, and then 3 years later, you're actually having to come back to it and spend a lot of money redoing your website. Much better to iterate on your design, use input from your customers, and move that asset forward. So on an ongoing basis, we've got to be doing that asset building. Audience building. These are running PPC ads or SEO, or how are you actually engaging with that potential audience that you have available to you? These are all the activities that you would do to reach that audience. And that can include things like trade shows and reaching new people that way. And so audience building is something that you have to be doing on an ongoing basis. Third, audience nurturing, right? So we have assets, we're reaching an audience with those assets, and then how are we nurturing that audience? Because we know people don't just click and buy. So how are we nurturing that audience to actually get them to do what we want them to? And so these are sort of the three things that need to be done on an ongoing basis. Now, more importantly, why are we doing them? Here's a description. So we're really creating awesome assets, and maybe an asset for you is your YouTube following or a remarketing list that you're building. And that's something that will actually give you an unfair advantage. If you have the best user experience on your website relative to competition, then you can leverage that against your competitors to drive growth. Same with audience building. It's really about how do we create influence? Not just reach an audience. In any given audience, there might be 2 to 3% that are ready to buy, and we know statistically that's true. But there's also everyone else that you need to be building influence with. If you don't have influence, you can't drive a decision. And then third, battling for mindshare, right? Once we have them and we're talking to them, how are we actually battling for mindshare? We're providing useful content or useful things for them to consume to lead them ultimately to lead generation or business growth that you're trying to drive. And then the final piece, I say make humans better, make your team better, make yourself better, is marketing technology. There's so much marketing tech. I think the latest thing is like there's 10,000 different platforms you could use. And the most common thing I see is people over-investing into marketing technology and then under-training or underutilizing that platform. You got to avoid that at all costs and think about how, or even in a quick win scenario, we talk about those 90 days, making sure that you're creating something that drives business value. Think about marketing technology that way. What are those 1, 2, or 3 things technology-wise you can implement that are easy, don't involve IT, because that can be obviously time-consuming and costly depending on how your teams are structured, but that actually show improvement and help your teams do this better, build better assets, drive better audiences that you're reaching, and then nurturing those audiences. So this is sort of the right side. These are the things you do on an ongoing basis. I think the important thing to think about is, okay, if you as a leader in your marketing role, and you've got a clear picture on your business priorities, and you're starting to figure out your marketing objectives, and now you're starting to say, oh, okay, I see how some of these things could fit together to help frame your conversation with your team. I think the next thing is, how do you measure this, right? There's so much data available. That's a wonderful thing about digital. But how do you measure the right things so you're all looking at the right KPIs that are going to be relevant to your business growth? And that's the next jam session I'm going to do, because I think measurement is such this, I mean, it's a big term and there's lots you can invest into it. But how do you do measurement properly? What are the things you should measure? What are just vanity metrics that don't matter? I'm going to talk through that, and I think that's important for next steps. So thank you for joining me on this jam session. Again, this is the Big Digital Strategy framework. We share this on our website and stuff too, so you can check it out. And I'll see you next time. Thanks.